Hi guys, welcome back. So this week we are going to make a keto dinner. So my daughter and I have chosen to take on the keto lifestyle once again. So tonight what we're going to do is kind of like a keto chicken parmesan. And how we're going to do that is we're going to use a spaghetti squash in place of our noodles, what we would normally have under the chicken parmesan. So this is just one small spaghetti squash. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut it in half this way. You're going to get that. And then we're going to take a spoon and we're going to go around and get all of that. I call it the guts, but you can call it whatever you want. We're going to get all of that out. Pardon any background noise you may hear. My son is playing VR and he gets very excited. So we're just going to do both halves of these. We want to make sure we get it all out. And what you can do is you can actually save these seeds and dry them out and plant them. And then you can grow some spaghetti squash. I actually have an abundance of the seeds, so I'm not going to save them this time. That's what you're looking for. So what we're going to do now is we're going to place them in an oven-safe dish. We're going to spray them good avocado oil. We're going to sprinkle them with a little bit of kosher salt. Black pepper, of course. You all know my affinity for black pepper. And garlic. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a splash of water. We're going to put it in there. And then we're going to cover this. Because we want it to cook kind of quickly tonight. So we're going to cover it. And then we're going to bake it at 350. And we'll start checking on them in about 20 minutes. We'll take the foil off and let them get a little roasted and colored. And we'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so while our squash is in the oven, we are going to prepare our chicken. This is just boneless, skinless chicken breast that I have here that I have washed and trimmed before I sealed and froze them. So we're gonna just maybe take these out one at a time. So what I like to do whenever I am going to be frying or pan searing chicken is I like to fillet them. So you can see here it's a pretty nice thickness. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut it this way and get either 2 or 3 pieces out of this. So you just wanna hold your knife like this. Having a sharp knife really helps in this process. And go slow, make sure you get even pieces of chicken. And I think we're gonna try for one more on this one. Probably should have sharpened my knife before I started this actually, but not too bad. Because we're gonna be frying these in almond flour, I want them to be thin so that I can cook them relatively quickly and so that our almond flour doesn't burn. Give me 1 second, I'm actually gonna switch knives. Okay, so I'm actually gonna use a fillet knife. You can tell it bends, it's pretty flexible. Just take your time, get through it. It's nice. And we're gonna go one more time. And if at any time you need to, you can just stop, back up, reposition your knife, and continue through. But that way you end up with an even cut. So we're just gonna keep going here and we'll come back when we're done. So now what we have is 4 chicken breasts that we have filleted. And so now we ended up with 12 pieces of chicken. And this is a really good way to stretch the meat in your household, or if you have, you know, like me, my daughter is not crazy about meat. My son is really not crazy about chicken because we have it so often. So this is a really good way to stretch it. That way, for us, like we could have gotten away with 2 chicken breasts here, but I always portion 4 for my family of 4. So what we're going to do now is I'm gonna take my glove off, wash my hands, season this up. Okay, so what we are going to do while we're getting the chicken ready and while the squash is baking, we are actually going to take, I canned this marinara sauce February 25th of last year. So what we're gonna do is first sniff it because we wanna make sure it's good. We're gonna come over here, we're gonna get it on in a pan. So we're just gonna season these up. Not too much on each side because remember we cut them down, they're pretty thin. So we don't wanna go too heavily. Sorry, you probably can't even see. And we are gonna season both sides. Not only are we gonna season both sides, but we're also going to season our almond flour, which is what we're going to dredge these in before we fry. I like a lot of pepper, so I squeeze it. Don't judge. All right, you wanna come over here? Okay, so we are now at the stove. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take our almond flour. I use Blue Diamond. You can use whatever you have available. We're gonna go with a cup to start. Yeah, that seems about right. That's what it's gonna look like. And then we are going to season again. And the seasoning I am going to, I'm gonna season it kind of heavily because I think instead of seasoning both sides of the chicken, I'm just gonna do the one side and then rely on this to get the other side seasoned.
Mean.
Huh?
Mean.
Wow. I'm gonna turn this down because you can see it's already bubbling. And while we do want it to bubble, we want it to more reduce than boil away. And I do have a pan of avocado oil, and I did just enough to cover the bottom by, I don't even know how much. Let's see. By that much. What is that, 1/8 of an inch or something like that? So not too much. I'm gonna mix up this almond flour with the seasonings and wait for this to come up to temperature, and then we'll start pan frying our chicken. Okay, so our oil is up to temp. It is roughly 340. Let's see here. Oh, it is higher than that now. I think I'm touching the bottom of the pan. Let's see. Okay, either way, it's ready. So we are going to put our chicken in the almond flour. We don't want too thick of a crust because, like I said, we are trying to go for low carb here, so we want to keep it as low carb as possible. So we don't want to have too thick of a crust on these. But we do want that slight crunch that it's going to provide after it fries. I'm going to turn this heat down just a bit because I don't want it to burn before the chicken is done inside. However, if you do notice that your chicken or the almond flour is starting to brown quicker than you want it to, what you can do is you can just get it to the desired brownness that you want on the outside, take it out and finish baking it in an oven. And I would say bake it at about 350 until the internal temperature is 165 degrees. So we're just going to keep going. We don't want to overcrowd the pan because we do want even cooking, but I think I can get this little baby chicken breast in here without overcrowding too much. So we're going to do that. Okay. So we're going to do that, and we're going to let these fry until they are golden brown on one side, and then we're going to flip and fry until they're golden brown on the other side, and hopefully at that point they are fully cooked. If not, like I said, I will take them out and finish cooking them in the oven. Once you see that they are starting to get golden brown on one side, like around the edges, that's when you know you'll be able to flip them without that breading coming off. So just let those go for a few more minutes, and then I'll start testing the thick parts of the chicken. Okay, I'm going to start taking the temperature on some of these thinner pieces. Yep, we got 165, 166, so we're going to take that one out. And we are going to set it on a cooling rack. Kai, can you move the camera over here? Ooh, that one's overcooked. So we're just going to set it on a cooling rack. That way it can drain. But I don't want to put it on like a paper towel or anything, because that will cause it to sit in its own grease kind of thing. And we don't want that. Okay, that's it. Okay. We're just going to keep going until all of the chicken is fried. All right, so we're going to give it a little taste, make sure everything's good. That is incredibly flavorful, even though we only seasoned one side of the chicken. With the seasonings that we put in the almond flour, it carries through that chicken nicely, especially because we cut it so thin. So I think seasoning one side was definitely the way to go. Plus, we're going to season the spaghetti squash, and then we're going to top it with this marinara and some mozzarella cheese, and we're going to bake it for a minute until it gets nice and melty. But yeah, this chicken is coming along nicely, and it's almost done. And we're just waiting on the spaghetti squash. This marinara is reducing nicely. I'm going to turn that up just a bit. I'm going to grab a lid so that it doesn't splash everywhere as it's reducing. Let this chicken get nice and brown on the other side. I'm going to turn the heat off and just let it get brown on the other side. All right, so I'm going to call that good on this one. I'm going to set these to the side. We're going to move this back. Even though the fire is off, we're still going to move it off of where the heat was. You can hear this bubbling nicely. All right, so I'm going to go check on our spaghetti squash. All right, so the squash is finished baking. Our sauce is incredibly reduced. So what we're going to do now is we're going to top just a little bit on each chicken breast. And then we're going to throw some freshly grated mozzarella on top. I say some, we like a lot of cheese here. So just like that. We're going to keep going. Okay, so once we've got the chickens all coated with a little bit of cheese and the sauce, we're gonna bake it. I'm actually gonna add some more on this chicken breast before we put it in the oven to get it melted. Okay, so I grated some more cheese and I'm just gonna top it on evenly. This is the cheese that I'm using, Galbani mozzarella cheese. It's a block that I grated myself. Okay, so now I'm gonna take this to the oven and get this all melting. I'll be right back. Okay, so our spaghetti squash is all nicely roasted. It's soft. When you poke it with a fork, it goes all the way through. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put it in our hand. You wanna be careful because it is hot. You just wanna slightly, gently go around and shred it with a fork. And you get these spaghetti-like strands. Keep doing this until we've gone all the way to the skin and there's nothing else. Smear it around just a bit. I'm gonna kind of toss it and get those seasonings in there. And then we're going to grab some more of our marinara sauce. You can go as heavy as you want on the marinara sauce. We're trying to, like I said, keep it low carb. So we're gonna go a little light. And then what I have here is I just steamed some broccoli. So we're gonna just take some of that, put it on here. Maybe a little over steamed, but you know, we're not complaining too much. I'm gonna take a little bit of butter, put it on our broccoli, sprinkle it with a little bit of salt, a little bit more salt. All right, and then I'm gonna grab the chicken and I will be right back. Okay, so this is what our chicken looks like coming out of the oven. I'm gonna go for this one right here. We're just gonna layer it. And I think I'm gonna give 2. Because remember, we cut these very thin. So that's it. Smear this butter around. Come in here and cut this. Give it a little taste for you guys. Sorry, that was a big bite. It's very flavorful. And I'm not a huge fan of squash, but when you eat it like this together, you can't even tell that you're eating squash. You can't tell that it's not pasta. Excuse me, especially with the marinara sauce. You've got the salt, you've got the seasonings, you've got the almond flour. It is delicious. And what did we use? 1, 2, maybe 5 ingredients with the seasonings. Like, I cannot stress enough getting in the kitchen and experimenting with your food and just having fun. Cooking for your family. Like, I can tell you this is all going to be gone tonight. Like, my family's going to devour this, and we're a family of 4. So just get in the kitchen, guys. Be blessed. Until next time.